Welcome to this third video in a series for district and school leaders who create, review, and approve school improvement plans in the Future Ready Comprehensive Planning Portal. Today's video focuses on what is needed for a high-quality action plan in the action plan section of the portal. This instructional video was produced by the Statewide Team for School Improvement at Lancaster, Lebanon, IU13, a leading education service agency which works in concert with the Pennsylvania Department of Education. Reproduction of this video is not permitted without written consent by IU13. Throughout this video, I'll highlight these key topics: the importance of alignment across all areas of your plan, specifically the Set and Go sections of the FRCPP. I'll review some specifics on what to include in a high-quality action plan. Throughout the video, you'll hear the words connection and clarity, because connection and clarity are what set you up to implement a plan that meets your students' and your school's needs. This video is focused on the Go, or Create Action Plans, portion of the FRCPP. In the Go section, schools develop their plans for improvement. Building upon the strengths and challenges identified in the Set section, planning teams will move to identify their most significant priorities to focus for improvement over the next year. From these priorities, measurable goals, evidence-based strategies, and action plans, inclusive of professional development and communication steps, are developed to guide the work for ongoing school improvement. The focus of this video will be on the information that is entered into the FRCPP in order to submit a high-quality plan. For resources on how to develop a high-quality action plan, go to the Go Create a Plan section of the website. You'll see links for different sections of an action plan, and with each section there are protocols, toolkits and one-pagers, guides and learning materials, and learning modules. High-quality plans require a clear through line. In other words, there needs to be connections between all components. As school plans are created, and therefore as they are reviewed, the connection from one phase of the cycle of continuous improvement to the next must be clear. In the earlier sections of the portal, you articulated a vision in the Ready section. In the Set section, you collected evidence and conducted a root cause analysis to identify the challenges to address. In the Go section, you will write a priority statement for each of your identified priority areas. Then you'll select an evidence-based strategy that, if implemented, will address the challenges. Only after you've selected the strategy can you write your action plan. This video will address the first three areas of the Go section: analyzing strengths and challenges, goal setting, and action plans. Support for completing the expenditure tables will be addressed in a separate video. In the FRCPP, the challenges and strengths that were selected in the previous section will be pre-populated. This area is where the top priorities are identified and priority statements are added. Priority statements must address the identified challenge. There's the connections. Writing an if-then statement is a way to provide clarity on the connection between the action you want to take and the outcome you expect. The outcome would be related to the root cause of the identified challenge. In a high-quality plan, this will make sense. The priority will address the identified challenge. If this statement doesn't address the challenge, the plan may be returned for revisions. Next is goal development. For each priority, you'll set at least one specific, feasible, and ambitious goal statement. First, you'll select an outcome strategy from a drop-down. Select a category where there's a reasonable relationship or connection between the outcome category and the goal statement. Then, write a goal statement that identifies an outcome that will be the result of addressing the problem of practice previously identified. The goals must be connected to the challenge and to the category that you've selected. You'll also want a clear goal statement that is specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound. It should also address equity concerns. If you haven't yet selected a strategy, you'll need to revisit this goal once you have in order to ensure that it is feasible based on the strategy that you've selected. Last, give your goal a nickname so you can easily refer to it later. After writing the annual goals, you'll enter quarterly targets. Quarterly targets are considered checkpoints. They need to be connected to the changes that you would expect to see in either students or adults as a result of the strategy being implemented. Check to ensure that the goals are outcomes, not actions. What are you looking for as a result of the actions? For instance, it's not about assessments being completed, it's about the outcome you expect to see on those assessments. Or, it's not about the number of walkthroughs completed, it's about what you expect to happen as a result of those walkthroughs. Targets need to be clearly written. Anyone reading the plan should be clear on what data will be collected and how the data will be calculated. This video hasn't gone in depth about high-quality goals. A section of our website, a learning module, and timely topic videos have been dedicated to goal writing. The Statewide team also has a performance management team who can offer guidance on goal writing to designated schools. Let's move on to action planning. The first step in action planning is to determine the evidence-based strategies that will best address the priorities. Schools that are designated as CSI are only permitted to use school improvement funds to support the implementation of ESSA Tier 1, 2, or 3 evidence-based strategies. To learn more about ESSA tiers, follow the link on this slide to the Learn section of the Evidence for PA site and select ESSA tiers. After selecting the strategy, the next step is to map out a plan for how your school will implement each selected evidence-based strategy. This is another area of the plan that requires clear connections. The selected evidence-based strategy should be connected to the challenge, and the steps listed to implement the strategy must be both connected to the strategy and clear enough that others can follow the plan. A strategy must be selected for each of the identified challenges. Once you have the evidence-based strategy selected, enter it into the appropriate space. It will pre-populate in a section header for that part of your plan. When entering the name of the strategy, be clear what you're implementing. For example, if you're implementing Check and Connect to address student absenteeism, enter Check and Connect in this space, not student attendance. It is also suggested to provide a link to a description of that strategy. In addition to the name of the evidence-based strategy, list the ESSA tier as it would be for your context. When plans are being reviewed, these steps allow the reviewer to verify the connections between your priorities, your goals, and the actions to be implemented. This is also where you select all of the measurable goals that will be reached by implementing this strategy. Only goals that will be directly addressed by this strategy should be selected here. Once you've selected the strategy that you'll be implementing, you clearly list the steps that your team will take to bring the strategy to life in your school system. When you're writing the action steps or when you're reviewing action steps that have been written, are the action steps directly related to the selected evidence-based strategy? For example, when you're reading the action plan, there should be clear evidence of the key components of the strategy that you're implementing. Look for the action steps that are discrete enough that individuals outside of the committee can follow the plan. The action steps are not intended to be a list of tasks, but only having 2 to 3 action steps isn't quite enough. Action steps should address the identified problem of practice. Where necessary, action steps to develop systems for implementing the strategy are also included. Each action step needs to have a clear start and completion date. Timeframes do not span the entire school year. Ongoing actions include qualifiers for the number of times they will occur per quarter. For each action step, you must identify the person responsible for ensuring that the action step is complete. This should not be the same person or position for every action step. Responsibility is shared. To learn more and to access resources for selection of evidence-based strategies and action plan writing, see those sections of the Go or Create a Plan section of our website. In the learning modules, you'll see several available under the Create the Plan section. In addition, there is a Timely Topics video on using the evidence-based strategies to determine necessary action steps. At the end of each action plan, you'll be required to list both anticipated outputs and a plan for how you will monitor and evaluate your plan. Let's talk about outputs first. Outputs are milestones. They're tangible products or observable shifts in practice that will serve as checkpoints for monitoring the implementation of your strategy. In other words, these outputs are things you'll look for to know that the action steps were completed. It could include agendas or reflections from professional development sessions, lesson plans, PBIS matrices, lists of student mentors, etc. The items on this list are connected to the action steps and to the evidence-based strategy. After listing the outputs, you'll need to share your plan for monitoring the implementation and evaluating the impact of your work. How will you know that the action steps are being monitored? How will you know that you're meeting the quarterly targets? In this section, clearly state who will be monitoring the implementation. How will you know that the plan is being implemented? And when will the monitoring of the implementation take place? How frequently? When will evaluation of the effectiveness of the plan take place? Consider also including the data points that you will collect to show the evidence of implementation and of impact. This is an example of a plan for monitoring the implementation of an action plan. This statement, the steering committee will meet monthly to review the implementation tracker and determine what steps have been implemented, what challenges need to be addressed, and what action steps will be implemented in the upcoming month, includes the people, the frequency, and the methods. Here's an example of how to monitor the impact of a school improvement plan. The steering committee will meet quarterly to analyze benchmark attainment. The team will review data on attendance, out-of-school suspension, student academic growth, and implementation of instructional strategies. Data will be disaggregated by student groups. Keep in mind that the data that this team is going to review is connected directly to their plan. This statement includes the people, the frequency, and the methods for evaluating the impact of their plan. For resources and information on incorporating monitoring routines into your continuous improvement work, go to the Monitor and Adjust course section of our website. There are also learning modules for monitoring the plan and, of course, timely topic videos. If you have questions or are looking for additional guidance, please reach out to the appropriate contact listed here. Thank you for watching this video. For feedback or questions regarding this video, please email pdecsi@iu13.org.